Right, LastPass, new series, let's kick it off.
On October 25th, 2023, 25 LastPass users woke up to drained cryptocurrency wallets. $4.4 million stolen in a single day across 5 different blockchains. The attackers did not hack the blockchain. They cracked passwords stored in encrypted LastPass vaults that had been stolen in 2022. By December 2024, another $5.4 million was taken from over 40 wallet addresses. By late 2025, investigators traced approximately $35 million in total theft to the same breach. In March 2025, federal investigators linked $150 million cyber heist to the stolen vaults. 3 class action settlements totaling $35.7 million are finalizing across the United States and Canada. The breach happened in 2022. The thefts happened every year since. The settlement emails arrived this week. LastPass was founded in 2008 as an independent password manager. In 2015, LogMeIn, the remote access software company, acquired it for $110 million. In 2020, Francisco Partners, a private equity firm, and Elliott Management, a hedge fund, took LogMeIn private in a $4.3 billion leveraged buyout. LastPass became a unit inside the renamed group. In April 2024, LastPass completed its separation and began operating as an independent company, still owned by the same private equity firms. In 2021, the free tier was restricted to a single device type. Users who had relied on free cross-device synchronization were forced to choose between paying or leaving. The restriction accelerated migration to competitors and signaled a revenue extraction approach consistent with private equity ownership rather than user growth. This is not a company built by founders with a privacy mission. This is not a non-profit foundation. This is not an open-source project maintained by a community. This is a password manager owned by financial investors whose primary incentive is the return on their investment. The ownership structure matters because when the breach happened in 2022, the company holding encrypted vault data for tens of millions of users was controlled by investors whose alignment with user security was structurally different from companies where the mission is the product. The disclosure timeline reveals how that structure affected communication. August 2022, the first breach was disclosed as a developer environment intrusion with no customer impact. December 2022, the company revealed that encrypted vault backups and full customer metadata had been stolen. March 2023, additional disclosures revealed that more had been taken than previously acknowledged. Each update was worse than the last. Users could not make informed decisions about their security because the information arrived in stages over 7 months. The zero-knowledge architecture is technically intact. LastPass never knows your master password. Your vault is encrypted with a key derived from that password. LastPass cannot read your vault. This is true. It is also insufficient when someone steals the encrypted vault and takes it home. The breach happened in 2 stages. In August 2022, the attacker accessed the development environment through a compromised developer account and obtained source code and internal technical blueprints. In December 2022, using knowledge from that first intrusion, the attacker accessed a shared cloud storage service and took the encrypted vault backups along with all the customer metadata. The offline cracking attack is what happened. The attacker obtains the encrypted vault backup. There is no rate limiting, there is no account lockout, there are no failed attempt warnings. The attacker runs password guesses on their own hardware as fast as their processors allow. The speed of each guess depends on how many iterations the key derivation function uses. More iterations mean each guess takes longer to compute. The recommended standard at the time of the breach was 600,000 iterations. LastPass's default was 100,000 and 100. Some older accounts had even fewer. For users with weak master passwords and low iteration counts, the vault was crackable within days or weeks on modern hardware. The stolen unencrypted data made the cracking more targeted and more dangerous. Every customer's name, email, billing address, phone number, and the website addresses of every service they had stored credentials for. The attackers knew exactly which users had cryptocurrency exchange accounts. They knew which vaults were worth cracking first. The website addresses were not encrypted because LastPass stored them outside the encrypted vault structure. A password manager that tells an attacker which services you use before they even crack the vault is a password manager that has given away the map before the lock is broken. The theft timeline is what separates this breach from every other security incident in the password manager space. The vaults were stolen in 2022. In October 2023, coordinated drains hit 25 victims in a single day. The attackers had cracked master passwords, extracted cryptocurrency seed phrases, and private keys stored inside vaults, and systematically emptied wallets across multiple blockchains. In December 2024, more than 40 wallet addresses were drained. 2 years after the breach, the vaults were still being cracked, new victims were still appearing, individual losses documented on the community forum tell the human cost. $21,000 in cryptocurrency, $5.2 million in another case. A plaintiff in the class action had cryptocurrency stolen around a holiday in 2022, using credentials stored in LastPass. The losses are not hypothetical. They are documented, traced, and in some cases linked by federal investigators to the same breach. 3 settlements are finalizing: a federal class action with initial approval for $24.5 million, a separate class action for $8.2 million, a Canadian consumer privacy settlement for $3 million. Total confirmed settlements across 3 jurisdictions are approximately $35.7 million. The traced thefts exceed $35 million. The linked federal cyber heist is $150 million. The settlements cover a fraction of the documented losses. The iteration count has been raised to 600,000. That does not help vaults already stolen. The stolen data from 2022 remains in the attacker's possession permanently. In January 2026, targeted phishing attacks against LastPass users were reported, enabled in part by the stolen, unencrypted website address data that tells attackers exactly which services each user has accounts with. The breach is not a historical event, it is an ongoing condition. LastPass in 2026 is technically improved. The iteration count is at the recommended standard, passwordless login is available, passkey support exists, hardware security key support exists, the product works, the features are competitive, the interface is polished. The company is conducting trust rebuilding media appearances 4 years after the breach. The fact that it still needs to tells you everything about the scale of the damage. The breach proved that zero-knowledge encrypted vault is necessary but not sufficient. It requires strong master passwords from users, strong key derivation settings from the provider, protection against backup exfiltration, and prompt disclosure when something fails. LastPass fell short on the key derivation, fell short on the backup protection, and fell short on the disclosure timeline. The architecture was technically correct. The implementation and response were not. For someone choosing a password manager today, LastPass is the answer to the question of what the worst case looks like. The encryption worked as designed, the backups were stolen, the iteration count was below the recommended standard, the website addresses were stored unencrypted. The attackers cracked vaults at their leisure, the thefts continued for years, the settlements cover a fraction of the losses. A password manager that never had a breach is not proof that it never will. But a password manager whose breach led to $150 million in linked theft and 3 class action settlements across 2 countries is proof that the consequences of getting it wrong are not theoretical. They are documented, traced, and still accumulating 4 years later.